As cheesy as this is, there used to be a moment in time where I was incredibly excited about system software updates, calling back to the Wii and the 3DS and the Wii U. But then at some point in the Switch's life, it seemed like every update didn't do anything fun. It just offered better system stability, which I would almost disagree with when you look at the eShop. But now, ahead of the Switch 2 launch, we're on version 20 of the Nintendo Switch operating system. And it's brought us a lot of changes, some big and some small. And I, Zian from Nintendo Life, am here to tell you all about it, all about the good and the bad, because of course, it's not always all Super Mario Sunshine and Rainbow Roads over here on the Nintendo Switch, is it? So let's talk about some of the small stuff that version 20 is adding. This was pointed out by Oatmeal Dome over on Twitter. A lot of the icons that you can use for your Nintendo Switch profile have been changed. You can take a look and see Mario and Luigi look a little different. Mario's a bit shorter, Luigi's a bit happier. Donkey Kong, of course, looks as he always did. A lot of these assets seem to be pretty old, so I'm completely fine with the update, except for the Pikmin. I wish they would have just left them alone. Does anyone else think they look worse, or is it just me? Then if you scroll down to the bottom of the Switch, you'll notice that the news icon and the eShop icons are different colors. The news is green now and the eShop is red. And then if you go ahead and click the eShop, you'll notice that it's all red now. Yay! I miss the orange already. Our good friend John Cartwright over at Good Vibes Gaming also pointed out that the great deals and the bestsellers section are now sorted based on the revenue, the amount of money that they pull in, not how many unit sales they have. John's got a whole video on this, so we'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to go check it out. It's really interesting, but basically Nintendo is doing their best to try and weed out a lot of the eShop slop, a lot of the shovelware, as you'd call it, and a lot of the weird games that you probably don't actually want to buy. I've always been curious how many people actually get tricked into buying those things. Now, we don't see as many indie titles on here as we once would have, but I will say if you go into the best sellers, it's actually still cool to see stuff like Lunar is at the number 6 spot in the top 10. And did anyone else notice that? But it seems like when you back out and you go back to this hub here, it almost looks like everything is running at like 60 FPS just for a second, and then everything chugs dramatically once we try to go into some of these other options here. But it's nice to get just a mere glimpse of what a smooth looking eShop can look like. You can also find Nintendo Switch 2 games on the eShop now as well. Now you can't purchase Nintendo Switch 2 games on a Switch 1 console. You can only look at them and see the high prices and look at some screenshots and get some information, which I think this is a good thing. Then you're not going to have parents or kids accidentally buying these games and then not having a console to play them on. And there's actually a little toggle here that you can click if you actually don't want to see Nintendo Switch 2 games on the Switch 1. So you don't even have to worry about getting excited about something and then being let down that you don't have the right console for it. It's also worth pointing out that you can no longer re-download games on the eShop. Now hold on, that's not exactly what you think. If you click the re-download tab on the eShop, it will instantly redirect you to the virtual game card tab. And from there, you can go and download everything that you've purchased. So no big deal, really. Don't stress. If you see any YouTube videos of people claiming that you can no longer re-download your games, that's clickbait. Please don't believe that. Now we will talk about virtual game cards more, but before we do, let's talk about the new Game Share feature. This allows a Nintendo Switch to receive game data locally from a Nintendo Switch 2. You can't game share with a Nintendo Switch and a Nintendo Switch. It simply will not work. You have to have a Nintendo Switch 2 and a Nintendo Switch 2, or a Nintendo Switch and a Switch 2. Does that make sense? We've also been told that Game Share will work online, but it seems like this is only possible with Nintendo Switch 2 consoles. Game sharing online with a Switch 1 is not. Even if you're just trying to play something as simple as Clubhouse games, you'll need at least a Nintendo Switch 2 in the equation there. Basically, it sounds like the Switch 2 is going to be the unit that is casting data to other players. Maybe it's a hardware thing. Maybe it's just a limitation Nintendo is putting out there to try and sell more units, sell more Switch 2 consoles. We don't know, but the limitation is there. What I'm more curious about though is what is this balloon game, and is anything going to come of this? It's probably just a fun piece of art, but what if it's a real game Nintendo is teasing? Is this Balloon Fight making a comeback? I would love to see Balloon Fight 99 on Switch 2. Now, if you're in this unique position where you happen to have 2 Switch consoles and you don't have internet readily available for those consoles and you like to transfer data back and forth between the two, you can now transfer multiple pieces of save data from one console to another. If you do this, please let me know. I'm very curious if this is something people actually requested from Nintendo. It's nice regardless though. It will help future-proof the console. Nintendo has also added the ability to system transfer from a Switch 1 to a Switch 2. So if you're buying a Switch 2 down the road, your Switch 1 is already going to know how to recognize it when you pick it up, which is just a nice thing you don't have to worry about. And Nintendo also added something I really wasn't expecting. If you're planning on trading in your Nintendo Switch or giving it to a friend or family member before the Switch 2 launches, you can actually go into the settings, you go all the way down to the bottom, click System, and then scroll all the way down to the bottom of that screen, and you'll see System Transfer to Nintendo Switch 2. Now, if you go through that, click a couple buttons, and get to the point where it says, I don't have a Nintendo Switch 2 yet. You click that. So here it's telling you that Nintendo will take all of your data and transfer it up to a digital server. Now, we don't have confirmation of this, but I would imagine this would be all of your save data, all of the games you've purchased, on your eShop account, maybe your photos as well. Basically, anything that should be transferred over from a standard system transfer should transfer over in this same regard, theoretically. And it all goes up to the cloud. And I'm assuming I'm recording this video on April 30th of 2025, and here it's saying that the download deadline is April 29th, 2026. So theoretically, you should have an entire year to re-download all of your stuff onto your Nintendo Switch 2 console. Now, what happens if you don't download the stuff after the deadline? I'm assuming Nintendo takes all your stuff and throws it in the recycling bin because they only have so much storage. But it's really cool that Nintendo is actually offering this, because there's going to be a lot of people out there, I imagine, that are trading in their consoles to get a Switch 2. And now it's time to talk about virtual game cards, which Alex has already created an entire video talking all about that concept. So please go give that a watch if you want to learn more. But the concise, bite-sized version is basically Nintendo has created this new tab called Virtual Game Cards. From here, you can see all of the games that you've purchased with your Nintendo Switch account. And once you first boot it up, all of the games that you own, they should be theoretically loaded on this one console, this main console here. And what you can do is you can take a game and you can load it on another system, theoretically, if you want. Like I could take this copy of Lunar here. I can boot up my Switch Lite. Oh, I don't even need to do that actually. It just transferred it. So now when I turn on my Switch Lite, let's see what happens. Whoa! There is Lunar. Lunar is already downloading on my Switch Lite. Now, once Lunar's finished downloading, I should be able to just play that on this Switch Lite. Now, I'm the kind of person that never plays my Switch Lite. I really like the form factor. I like how lightweight it is. I love the D-pad. But the fact that I always had to be connected to the internet with it, since it was my secondary console, or I'd have to go into the eShop and change the settings and make it my primary console, I just never wanted to fiddle around with that. But now that you have this virtual game card set up here, you can just easily transfer your games. But now Nintendo's given us a new way to access our digital library across multiple systems. You can also use the virtual game card feature to share games with friends. You can lend a game to a member in your family group. My friend Evan actually came over and we tested this all out earlier. I lent him a copy of Crow Country. Now, in order to do this, you have to have the same Nintendo Switch consoles in the room or within like 100-foot radius. It seems like the radius is it's pretty strong. We kept Evan's Switch here in one room and I put my Switch in another room and it was actually able to detect it. You don't actually have to have the consoles this close like it says here. Evan's back at home now and we tested it again to see if I could lend a game long distance to him, and it just did not work at all. They have to be in the same kind of vicinity. Now, we know that there are a lot of people out there that use some of the exploits to play one copy of a digital game across multiple consoles, maybe amongst their friends and family. We're aware now that that's just not really as possible as it once was. This new update has removed that sort of thing. And it's a shame because it's something that Nintendo for a long time seemed to allow. But now this new update has removed it. And it's given us some new options, some new ways to enjoy our games and share them with friends. But it seems like the days of having one digital copy of a game for a household, if you have multiple people that want to be playing it on different consoles, might not be as possible as it once was. Now, I can go into my Switch account and I can lend anyone a copy of a game for 14 days, but it really sucks that they have to be nearby. Initially, Nintendo told us that you had to be nearby in order to start the virtual game card exchange with a friend. But I was under the impression that after you did that one initial setup, that you'd be able to exchange games from long distance, but it turns out that is actually not the case. While this update brought a lot of good, it also just brought a lot of bad, more questions, confusion, even the game share thing. The fact that you can't game share with a Nintendo Switch 1 and another Nintendo Switch 1, you need a Nintendo Switch 2. It's all very confusing and silly and stupid. And we still don't have better themes. Let us know in the comments down below what you make of all these Nintendo Switch updates, version 20. How does it go down in your books? Let us know your favorite feature and the things that make you upset. Please let us know. We do read the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you update that subscribe button to let it be played by anybody it wants. And then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we put up new videos like this. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Zian from Nintendo Life. Stay safe out there. Let me know what you think of my new TV, and I will see you all next time.